next speaker, the final speaker for this panel, is Janet Enoch. And Janet has been working as an investigator for Shark, and Shark is showing animals respect and kindness, and she's been doing that for the past 10 years, documenting and exposing animal cruelty. Janet is also a volunteer with the local wildlife center. She is on the board of the Chicago Humane Society, and previously Janet was the vice president of Kinship Circle and the president of the St. Louis Animal Rights Team. As the executive director of the Animal Trust of America, Janet assisted in closing 2 Petland stores in the St. Louis area. And a little known fact about Janet. Janet is the co-creator of the Amazing Grace's Gourmet Vegan Fudge. And I think she's sharing some of that with all of us this morning. Is that right? Sunday. Line up at her booth and grab some. Thank you. Janet, come on up. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. It is great to see so many of you out there, kindred spirits here for the animals. Due in large part to negative publicity generated by the Blackfish documentary and the subsequent earnings drop, SeaWorld has stopped its orca breeding program and orca shows earlier this year. However, SeaWorld still has a suffering orca named Morgan on loan at a park in Spain, still being forced to perform, and is routinely beaching herself outside her heavily chlorinated tank, and also repeatedly banging her head into a metal grate. How many other orcas SeaWorld has loaned out elsewhere is still being forced to perform is unclear. This is a good start, but SeaWorld is still housing dolphins, beluga whales, pilot whales, and has not made any commitments in these areas. There are many other whale jails worldwide that need boots-on-the-ground activism to relentlessly target them. So next year there will be more victories for the animals to celebrate. Last Chance for Animals investigation of Marineland Canada has prompted a Canadian Parliament bill titled Ending the Captivity of Whales and Dolphins. By banning their capture, confinement, breeding, and sale of whales and dolphins. We need our Congress here to pass the same legislation for the whole nation. With Rick O'Barry, the former trainer of Flipper, spearheading decades of protest, Born Free has succeeded in getting the National Aquarium to resend all of their 8 dolphins it used in shows to a coastal sanctuary yet to be built. The Georgia Aquarium has canceled their plan to acquire 18 beluga whales in the wild after being blocked by the National Marine Fisheries Service and HSUX. Plans to acquire dolphins and whales from the wild have been permanently terminated. Shark is continuing to knock out rodeos nationwide. Rodeos are not self-sustaining, and as Shark continues to expose the cruelty and deaths in rodeos, sponsors are withdrawing their financial support and public attendance is dropping. While the rodeo industry claims to be a growing industry, they are in fact dying. The Animal Legal Defense Fund filed a lawsuit on Shark's behalf against the Salinas Rodeo for falsifying their animal injury reports. This will have an adverse impact on the entire rodeo industry nationwide. Rodeo is banned in the UK, Holland, China, and the city of Vancouver, Canada. The Vancouver Humane Society is leading the battle against the Calgary Stampede that annually kills horses in the Chuck Stampede event and other cruel rodeos in Canada. Last month, Shark and Global Conservation Group pursued legal action against the Stoughton County Fair for their annual pig wrestling event in Wisconsin, operating in violation of Wisconsin animal cruelty statutes. Combined with help from Alliance for Animals and the Environment, this event was canceled. In Martinsville, Illinois, Shark documented and exposed an animal scramble contest wherein baby animals were inadvertently kicked, trampled, choked, and dropped by children in pursuit of these animals. After releasing videos and applying pressure on the Illinois Department of Agriculture for not enforcing Illinois Humane Care for Animals Act, the event organizers have made significant modifications to stop the overt cruelty. As we all know, after decades of protest against Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus by PETA, Last Chance for Animals, Animal Defenders International, Born Free, and many other large organizations and grassroots groups nationwide, as well as decades-long lawsuit for violations of the Animal Welfare Act, Ringling has ended its elephant performances. However, the elephants are still being housed in the Feld breeding facility in Florida instead of a sanctuary, and Ringling still has their tigers and lions, who should also be retired and transferred to sanctuaries. Now the elephants will be used for cancer research for children, since elephants don't get cancer. Supposedly, right now, that just entails some of their blood from routine health screening blood draws. Future monitoring of the situation is in order, as well as whether the elephants are still being bred. Ringling is a stepping stone, and other circuses should be targeted by boots-on-the-ground activism to retire their elephants and other exotic animals to sanctuaries. Carson and Barnes Circus was fined only $16,000 for 2 elephant violations instead of the $60,000 that the violations called for. Pressure is needed to get Carson Barnes to retire their elephants too. Animal Defenders International has completed Operation Spirit of Freedom, wherein over 100 exotic animals were rescued in the country of Peru following the passage of a ban on circuses. Most circuses defied the law, requiring Animal Defenders International to track them down and remove the animals with assistance from local authorities. 33 lions from Colombia and Peru were airlifted to a sanctuary in South Africa. After Animal Defenders International spent 8 months tracking a circus defying the ban, a tiger named Hoover was rescued and transferred to Big Cat Sanctuary in Florida. Mefusa, a mountain lion that spent 20 years chained to a circus truck, also was rescued by ADI and released to a sanctuary in the Peruvian forest. Elephants didn't have to perform in Norfolk, Virginia and Winchester, Virginia after PETA contacted venues and officials to let them know that the Garden Brothers Circus has a long history of putting animals in the public at risk. Mel Howe Shriners of Springfield, Massachusetts held an animal-free circus at the Eastern States Coliseum. Shriners temples nationwide should be pressured by activists to switch to animal-free circuses nationwide. Also in Massachusetts, the Cambridge City Council has banned circuses that exploit exotic animals. Let's get work to get other cities to do the same thing. HSUS and Born Free worked with Rhode Island lawmakers to pass a bill to ban the use of bullhooks against captive elephants in the circus. If the governor signs this bill, we'll be the first state in the nation to enact this policy, with California expected to follow suit soon. We should work very hard to make this happen nationwide. Austin joins Los Angeles, Oakland, Richmond, Minneapolis, Miami Beach, and other cities across the U.S. in supporting an end to use of bull hooks to elephants and circuses. Asheville, North Carolina has said no to circuses entirely. After years of USDA violations of the Animal Welfare Act and years of investigations by Animal Defenders International, Dirk authors Wild Magic Animal Act, which includes a snow leopard, a panther, white tigers, and other exotic cats in Las Vegas, has been canceled. No one knows the whereabouts of where the cats are at. On May 28th, just one day after celebrating his 17th birthday, Parab, a rare silverback gorilla, was gunned down after a boy fell into the gorilla's enclosure. This has brought much needed attention to zoos and their mismanagement of their exotic animal prisoners. Our movement needs to aggressively move the momentum forward to end this cruelty at all zoos nationwide. Since the horrific killing of Cecil, the lion, 40 airlines no longer transport hunting trophies. South Africa Airways has suspended the transport of big game trophies from Africa, but caved under pressure from Safari Club International and other groups aligned with trophy hunting, and has resumed transports. It is time we pressure all major airlines and Federal Express and UPS to stop providing a gateway for trophy hunters' larceny. Last month, Juma, a jaguar that was used as part of the 2016 Olympic torch relay, was shot dead in Brazil after she escaped from her handlers. The jaguar is a nearly threatened species and has already been wiped out in Uruguay and El Salvador, according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature. The Amazonas State Government Environmental Authority that oversees the use of wild animals is investigating the incident. The mascot for the 2016 Games in Rio, scheduled to start August 5th, is a jaguar by the name of Jinja. Let's hope that Jinja does not meet the same fate of Juma. In March 2011, the Born Free Foundation, Born Free USA, the International Fund for Animal Welfare, the Humane Society of the United States, Humane Society International, Defenders of Wildlife, and the Fund for Animals filed a petition with the Department of the Interior to list the African lion as an endangered species under the Endangered Species Act. Finally, after 4 long years, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service announced its final decision in December 2015 to list lions in Central and Western Africa as endangered, and lions in Southern and Eastern Africa as threatened under the U.S. Endangered Species Act, with a special rule to ensure that trophies are not imported into the U.S. unless they are from a country with management plan for lions that has been approved by the U.S. government. This increased protection will potentially save the lives of hundreds of animals each year. PETA has long called for the federal government to close a loophole in the federal regulations that has allowed animal abusers to harm, export, and sell endangered animals without federal oversight that the tigers are considered to be generic or a mixed subspecies. Now, generic tigers will be subject to the same permitting requirements under the Endangered Species Act as purebred tigers. By closing this loophole, generic tigers can no longer be sold across state lines without a federal permit or registration. This hopes that this protection will help stem the captive tiger overpopulation crisis caused by roadside zoos, animal circuses, and wildlife exhibitors who breed tiger cubs as photo props. Although the new federal regulations won't prevent individuals from possessing tigers, and a universal ban of owning captive animals is sorely needed, this is a step in the right direction for protecting all tigers, not just those considered to be purebred. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has sided with PETA and denied Maitland, Florida-based big cat exhibitor Mitchell Kalmanson's application to import 6 endangered tigers from Mexico. Big cats have died as a result of Kalmanson's neglect, including a lion cub who died of a metabolic bone disease caused by an inadequate diet. The USDA ordered that the notorious Barry Kirshner Wildlife Foundation in California pay more than $5,000 in fines for chronic violations of the Animal Welfare Act, following an inspection prompted by PETA and numerous calls for investigations in recent years. Documented violations including subjecting animals to temperatures of over 100 degrees with no cooling measures and not providing veterinarian care for injured animals, and also allowing dangerous contact with adult lions, tigers, and bears with the public. Despite the introduction of a number of measures to clamp down on the illegal trade of elephants, the latest figures by the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species program for monitoring the illegal killing of elephants shows that poaching rates remain largely unchanged. Over 30,000 elephants have lost their lives to poachers in the last few years alone. Shark continues efforts in Pennsylvania to end live pigeon shoots. Shark has shut down 3 pigeon shoot locations and has significantly dropped attendance at the remaining 3 locations. As a sign of our success, Shark is currently fighting a lawsuit brought by one of the wealthy pigeon shoot locations. Legislation spearheaded by HSUS to end pigeon shoots was nearly passed until a last-minute donation of $20,000 to key legislators by the pigeon shooting organizations killed the bill. So now we're back to square one. After overwhelming public outrage, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission voted last month, not to proceed with a trophy hunt scheduled later this year, sparing almost 400 bears. However, this is just a one-year reprieve. So the commission will re-examine the issue again next year, which means we have to work harder to stop the hunt again next year. HSUS led the campaign to stop the New Hampshire legislation from implementing a bobcat hunting and trapping season starting this year. Unfortunately, deer kills are becoming epidemic nationwide as human development displaces deer from their homes. For years, Shark has documented and exposed both government and private killers' brutal and incompetent killings, and has forced some of the killing programs to stop. In Defense of Animals is partially funding a deer immunocontraceptive study in Hastings-on-Hudson in New York. Mayor Swiderski states, "We are in our 3rd year. We should see fewer fawns this year, 30-year immunized over the previous 2 years, largely to be sterile for the next 2 years. We are sticking with this effort for at least another 2 years. With the apparent success of this program, more pressure is needed to force other communities to initiate this non-lethal deer control option." HSUS has defeated a bill aimed at repealing New York's decade-long ban on cruel snare traps. This measure would have permitted snaring of coyotes and other wildlife. For 3 weeks in April and May, Showing Animals Respect and Kindness and Last Chance for Animals documented USDA Wildlife Services killing of cormorants on East Sand Island in the Columbia River between Oregon and Washington. The cormorants are seabirds that are making a comeback after DDT catastrophe. After a lawsuit filed by 2015, by the Animal Legal Defense Fund, Audubon Society of Portland, Center for Biological Diversity, and the Wildlife Center of the North Coast, a federal judge finally ruled in mid-May against the killings and destruction of the cormorant's nest, suggesting non-lethal methods be found. A week later, the entire colony collapsed, and the last of the remaining 16,000 cormorants not yet killed by USDA Wildlife Services abandoned the island, allowing predators to raid the remaining nests that had not yet been destroyed by Wildlife Services. Killing of the cormorants is also being done in Lake Erie in South Carolina. In 2015, Fish, Field, and Shark documented and exposed the annual barbaric cow-nosed ray killing tournaments in Chesapeake Bay. These horrific events have been going on unnoticed for decades until last year, when Shark released video footage obtained from the slaughter. Thanks to media attention and public outrage, sponsors withdrew the first 2 of the 3 cow-nosed ray killing contests scheduled last month, and they were canceled. However, the 3rd ray killing tournament did proceed with support from state law enforcement, local law enforcement, and the Navy. Shark will be releasing videos of this slaughter throughout the year and working with Fishfield to get legislation to ban these slaughters before this vulnerable species is decimated. While the economy may be struggling, animal cruelty is continuing to thrive, and more boots-on-the-ground activism is desperately needed to help the millions of animals suffering and dying every minute of every day. During the past year, a lot of presidential candidates have won a few states and then declared they are going to be the next president of the United States. Obviously, that has not happened. And while we have won a few battles, we have not won the war, and the animals are losing by the billions and trillions. Please step up and get active for the animals. They really need your help now.